Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We are here on Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's Truth Czar. This is Huntsville's Disinformation Board. And we're still looking at the text line here. Tell me who you're going to vote for. Tell me if you're not going to vote. That's another one. Maybe you're undecided. We got the primary elections tomorrow across Alabama. You can weigh in 866-494-9866. By the way, it is Monday as well, so let's get to it. We have to start the Sunday News Show's recap. Yes, that time of the week where I recap what happened on those Sunday news talk shows. I'm talking Fox News Sunday, NBC's Meet the Press, CBS Face the Nation, and others. So you don't have to worry about it. I recap it for you on Monday so you can have Sunday off. Do whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. You can go to church or just sleep in. I have to sleep all day. Whatever you want to do, I give it to you off. And if you're a news junkie and you really do want to keep up with the latest, just listen to me, well, right now. It's my public service to you. You're welcome. So I wanted to play these cuts from Robert Gates, former defense secretary. He was on CBS Face the Nation, and of course they were talking mainly about the war in Iran. Now, there is breaking news this morning when we're talking about Iran that apparently the country, the IRGC, launched a drone against a nuclear power plant in the UAE. So if we could start bombing them and turn it into the Strait of Trump instead of the Strait of Hormuz, that'd be great. Yeah, just point that out. I've been saying that for a while. But I know Robert Gates talked about this as well, so I wanted to play these cuts and get your take. Go ahead and play Robert Gates, cut 1 for me. He was on CBS Face the Nation.
When you were defense secretary, you were concerned that a strike on the nuclear program would just buy time, a year or two, but it would not solve the problem. Do you still believe that?
I think the only way that we are likely to get the enriched uranium out of Iran and bring about an end to their nuclear aspirations is through a negotiation.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, obviously, most wars end with terms of surrender, which involve negotiations. So maybe that's a part of it, but I don't know. All right, go ahead and play cut 2 of him for me.
Is it possible for the President of the United States to walk away and leave this for the Israelis to settle?
No, I don't think he can walk away. And no, I don't think the Israelis can settle it. I don't think, as powerful as they are, they don't have the kind of power the United States has. And I think the president seems to have been very consistent and very clear that under no circumstances can Iran ever have a nuclear bomb. Well, the only way you get to that objective is resolving this issue of the enriched uranium and any future plans for enrichment.
By the way, if you agree with me that we need to start military operations and get their terms of surrender, weigh in on the text line. Play cut 3 of Robert Gates real quick.
I mean, I don't think that the nuclear program in Iran poses an imminent threat. After all, we bombed it twice.
But it is a big enough problem that it was clearly not going to be settled in 4 to 6 weeks, which was the timestamp that the American people were told to expect in terms of the duration of conflict.
I think that there were some unrealistic expectations.
All right, do you agree with that? I mean, it is taking a little bit longer because of the strait, but we'll talk more about this as we continue on with the Sunday News Show's recap and the Yaffee program next. Stay with us.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
You could pop up in WWE tomorrow. Would Saraya be there or would Paige be there?
Paige, 100%.
So when you're setting up Logan Paul to frog splash you through the announce table, what's going through your mind?
This should make every headline in the world.
It makes sense, right? In Jelly Roll.
We knew we had that kind of a moment.
Mindset, motivation, and what it takes to succeed. Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee program on WVNN.
So if you were listening to the first hour today, and if you missed it, the podcast is available for you. You can also, if you can't catch it on the radio, reminder, listen online, WVNN.com or your iHeartRadio app, any of your smart devices. But I was talking about how some of the radical leftists in the Democrat Party went down to Montgomery and screamed about racism because of redistricting. And those that have become the base of the party are extreme radical leftists like Ayanna Pressley, AOC Ock, as I call her, and others. And yet it's always funny because you see what's happened. I mentioned it at the time, mentioned it many times. President Trump's election again in the second time in 2024 was mostly about a rejection of the radical left. And yet it's funny because then you'll hear Democrats talk about the Republican Party is so extreme and this is why we're going to win because we're moderates. And it's like, does anyone buy this? The fact is, the only reason that Republicans have any hope in the midterms is because of the radicalness of the Democrat Party. Let's be honest. They're pointing to the Bill Cassidy loss in Louisiana as an example of Republican radicalness. I don't think that's it. But this came up in the Sunday News Talk Show, so we'll talk about it in a moment. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. Here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. We are looking at the text line here, taking a poll. We'll do this tomorrow as well. I really want to get your take on who you're voting for tomorrow. If you're voting in the Republican primary, who you got lieutenant governor's race, U.S. Senate race, state auditor race, attorney general race, who you got? In the state representative race here locally between Mo Brooks and James Lomax, who you voting for? You can let me know. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Right now, though, it's Monday in the 10 o'clock hour. Another segment here of the Sunday News Show's recap. Recapping the Sunday News Talk shows. I do it every Monday, so you don't have to worry about it on Sunday. It's my public service to you, and no, we're not taxpayer funded here. Some radio stations wanted that. Luckily, the Trump administration said no to that continuing on. But we're not asking for taxpayer funds here. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, I want to play these cuts from Pete Buttigieg, who was Biden's transportation secretary, took like a 6-month paternity leave. I kid you not, because him and his gay partner decided to adopt a kid. So that kid will not have a mother. Just want to remind you of that. But now he is talking about the radicalness of Republicans, apparently, and trashing our transportation secretary, even though Sean Duffy has done a good job. I mean, they're going to get their one-liners in against him, but if you want to talk about the actual job of the transportation secretary, Sean Duffy is leaps and bounds ahead of anything Pete Buttigieg accomplished, which wasn't much. But yeah, he was on CNN State of the Union talking about the midterm elections, the primaries. There was one in Louisiana yesterday where Senator Bill Cassidy lost the primary. He's been against Trump, voted for Trump's conviction in that impeachment after January 6th. So voters kicked him out for it, at least in the Republican Party. But go ahead if you can, Walker, play Pete Buttigieg cut 1 for me.
In my experience, Senator Cassidy is a normal, honest, and very conservative Republican. And it turns out people like that have less and less of a home in Donald Trump's Republican Party. We are seeing more and more extreme candidates put forward in their House and Senate races, which does create a big opening for Democrats. That doesn't mean that Democrats don't have to do the work, but I think it shows you that, you know, the Republican Party is organized less and less around conservative principles, more and more around one man. and as that one man remains deeply unpopular, they're having a very hard time convincing the rest of America to vote for them, which is why they're spending less time convincing their voters and more time rearranging voters and silencing voters through gerrymandering.
And we're going to talk about gerrymandering in a moment. But, I mean, there is some truth to the fact that, yes, Trump is the kind of guy who demands some type of loyalty. Although he's also forgiving. I mean, he bashed Marco Rubio in 2016 pretty bad, and now Marco Rubio is like his right-hand man in the White House. So, I mean, that being said, it's funny, though, he says that means we're going to get more extreme candidates. Would we say that the candidate who won in that Georgia district was more extreme than Marjorie Taylor Greene? So Trump had a falling out with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never liked her that much anyway. A guy who was a district attorney named Clay Fuller ended up being endorsed by Trump and taking that seat. Trust me, you look into that race at all, Clay Fuller is not in any way, shape, or form more extreme, quote unquote, than Marjorie Taylor Greene. So this idea that every time Trump's endorsed, it's for the more extreme candidate, it's just not true, honestly. Go ahead and play a cut 2 of Pete Buttigieg.
Well, let's be very clear about what's going on right now, which is a systematic effort to dismantle black political representation in the House of Representatives. What we're seeing amounts to the biggest reversal of black political power since the Voting Rights Act itself. It is wrong, it is unfair, and we never should have been here in the first place. Now, we have seen Democrats around the country, states that are more Democratic, taking action to try to offset or balance out the Republican gerrymandering. But Democrats didn't ask for this, and Americans didn't ask for this. We should have and could have fair maps across the country where in every state, red, blue, and purple, people are arranged into communities that actually make sense, district lines that look like normal shapes instead of these bizarre creations. And with the algorithms and the mathematical precision going into redistricting now, it has become even more extreme. I think Americans are fed up with it. I think we're fed up with a country where about 1 out of 10 House races are actually even competitive, and the other 9 out of 10, you pretty much know who's going to win before the first vote is even cast. And we'd be better off just to have broad-based reform. I think that's something that Democrats would welcome Republicans working with us on, but instead they have chosen this last-minute redistricting. I mean, in Louisiana, they were so focused on this, they actually stopped a primary where votes were already being cast so they could hurry up and rearrange the lines. And again, the racial element to this is particularly disturbing.
All right, there you go. So Pete Buttigieg going redistricting. He didn't care about all this. Didn't care about all this when Democrats were doing this in Democrat states. So put it that way. This is not about race. I keep saying that. This is about political power. It's what it's always been about, which I talked about many times before, which you know. Go and play cut 3 of Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, obviously, if Republicans are going to do this, Democrats have to try to offset it. But we would all be better off if it wasn't happening in the first place.
Okay, you are in Montana to support a ballot initiative that would amend the state.
So, yeah, there you go. We'll say that. Go and play the next cut of Pete Buttigieg.
Why can't Democrats catch on more with voters?
Well, in this climate right now, the Republican failure on the economy and President Trump's unpopularity has created an opening for Democrats. Now, an opening is not the same thing as a solution. Democrats need to be making clear what it is that we would actually do differently. It's not enough to just be against the other guy. Believe me, I am, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the president's breaking his promises, about his failure to bring down costs, about his launching the Iraq war, which is why everything from diesel to fertilizer to mortgages costs more now. But we also have to remind people of the things that we are for. We are for things like Medicaid. We are for expanding your access to health insurance. We are for for raising wages in this country. People need to see a proactive governing agenda. Things like paid parental and family leave. Things like political reform to do away with gerrymandering and corporate money in politics. I think the more we talk about that, alongside of our rightful criticism of the Trump administration's chaos and corruption, that's really the formula to earn trust and have success, not just in November, but as a governing majority.
It's funny because, as Dana Bash points out there, she's basically saying, yeah, but you look at the polls, Democrats are not really doing much better on things like the economy. And that's because, while Trump and the Iran war has made the economy worse, it's still as bad as inflation is and gas prices are right now. Most people know it's because of the war, and they might disagree with the war, but it's still not as bad as it was under Joe Biden. Gas prices were worse and there wasn't a war. Inflation was worse and there wasn't a war. So this idea, and like you said, the Democrat ideas, and he kind of mentioned some of them right now, the Democrat ideas are just more government subsidies. And he just talks about, well, yeah, we're going to make things more affordable with another government program where the government just provides you things. That's not what people want. They want a better economy overall so they can do better in the private sector and things can be more affordable. They don't want things to be more expensive, but the government pays for it, so to speak. So I just don't buy that argument either. But you could weigh in. We have our Yaffee text line. Maybe you do. 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. We'll have more of the Sunday News Show's recap. And, of course, we'll have What's Trending with Walker at the bottom of the hour as well. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
The Yaffee program.
My name is Megan Klingenberg. I was a professional soccer player for over 10 years, and like most players, I gotta be honest, I have some baggage when it comes to referees. I wanted to know, who are these refs? What kind of person gives up their weekend to call fouls and hand out cards? Why do they do it? So this time on the U.S. Soccer Podcast, I'm going to referee camp. The U.S. Soccer Podcast presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We're here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Glad you've joined the show today. Always glad when you join the show. Appreciate you listening today. By the way, we have much more to get to here. We have the second segment of the Sunday News Show's recap. Yes, once again, recapping the Sunday News talk shows. I do it every Monday, so you don't have to worry about it on Sunday. I have a good friend, I always say, watches Gunsmoke reruns. I don't think I've ever seen one episode of Gunsmoke, but he loves it. So he can do that and then recap, listen to me the next day. My public service to you. All right, so one thing we talked a little bit about with John Wall earlier on, but it was definitely a interesting segment. One thing we talked about is that there was a faith event. Now, this is a part of the 250th anniversary of America, which is coming up this July 4th. And there have been a lot of different events, but the Trump administration actually held a prayer event, a National Day of Prayer event in D.C., other places as well. And this is a really good thing. So we'll talk about that, but we have some other cuts to get to as well because Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was on Fox News Sunday. They were actually at one of these events, so you can kind of hear stuff in the background because they're outside at the event. And obviously, he's a man of faith. It's very important to him. He's very outspoken about it. But they also talked about the latest in Iran and the latest with the election. So I wanted to play some of those cuts for him. If we don't get through all of them, we'll play some of them later on. But go ahead and play Mike Johnson, cut one for me, Walker.
The president was, I think, pleased with the outcome of the visit. He thinks it was a big success, and the people that were on that trip agree. We have laid the groundwork, I think, for a new trade agreement, which I know Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, and the president have been working on in earnest. We're very hopeful about that. I will say it makes a big difference who serves in the White House, right? You have a commander-in-chief who is not afraid of China as a threat. he's facing this head on. And he's made it very clear to everybody around the world, America cannot be taken advantage of any longer. It's an America First agenda, meaning American workers and American companies and manufacturers first. And I think Xi respects that. And so we'll see what comes out of it. We're very hopeful.
Okay, well, I hope he's right. I still think we're in a Cold War with China, but I understand what Trump's trying to do. I mean, even with the Soviet Union, there were times where we tried to have better relations because obviously we don't want it to turn into a hot war or something. But we're still in this, I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, we're in a Cold War with China. Go and play cut 2 for me.
What do you make of those critics who say, though, listen, the U.S. is in a tougher economic position, that China has an upper hand, that they feel strong? They felt strong coming into this conversation. And because of some of the tough economic issues and other things that we're having here, that the president wasn't at the highest level of leverage he could have been.
Well, I don't know. I think that was a central part of the conversation because much of this economic trouble that we have right now, of course, is related directly to the Strait of Hormuz. And the president and Xi had a good discussion about that situation, and we're hopeful that they'll help. They have a direct interest in commerce being open in the Strait of Hormuz as much as we do. In fact, every country around the world, so we've got to get that sorted out.
Okay, there you go. That would be nice. Like I keep saying, I still think when it comes to Iran, we're going to have to bomb them again. Now, there are reports that we're looking into that. But this idea we're going to make a deal with this Project Pause, this so-called ceasefire, it's not happening. And I see no evidence it's going to. Go and play cut 3 of Mike Johnson.
Well, look, we've been wary of China's objectives there for quite some time, of course. The U.S. military and every president has been watching this closely, and we continue to do so. I saw the statement from Taiwan. I thought that was a reasonable thing for the leader there to say. They've got to flex their muscle a little bit and declare again that they are an independent country and they must remain so. We have an interest in that, as, again, do all freedom-loving people around the world. China cannot just go take over land, and we're going to stand strong and resolute by that. I know the Congress.
Okay. So that's talking about Taiwan. Now, I mentioned last week, the end of last week after this summit, that I see no evidence that Xi Jinping is like backing away from that. Now, I guess they're maybe hoping to take Taiwan through other means than just total invasion. But he still has it as a main goal, a main priority to take Taiwan. And that's a problem. Go and play Mike Johnson, Cup 4.
So CBS News had some polling out this morning showing 76% of people are concerned. 67% say they are stressed about their own personal financial situation. You know that generally the incumbent is punished in the midterms, and people are feeling very uncertain about how they're doing personally. How do you campaign against that?
Well, this relates to the last segment. We were talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Really, all points lead back to that. Gas prices are too high because of that, and then that has an effect on how goods are transported to the grocery store and all the rest. So as soon as we get that straightened out, we will get back to the kitchen table issues, the economic issues that we put in place to make the economy grow. The Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, all the legislation we passed, put in pro-growth policies that will lead to bigger paychecks. We already had the largest tax refunds we've had in a long, long time because of our policies. And so we're really excited, anxious for that to be resolved so that people will feel that. And I think they will before they go vote in the midterm.
All right,
Well, it all depends. Now, this is why I do think it's a good idea to suspend the federal gas tax, at least temporarily, because obviously this is going to be a problem, not just politically, though, to get some relief. But he is right about one thing. If the war can be resolved, if the Strait of Hormuz can be opened again, I do believe oil prices and gas prices will go down and go down pretty quickly. I think they will. Now, does that mean it will go down as to the point as before the war very quickly? No, it's going to take some time. But let's say it even goes down just below $3 a gallon or somewhere close to that after the war. That'll make a difference. That'll make the difference in the midterms. But we'll have to see. Like I said, I don't know how we get to that point without being stronger against Iran again, which is why I thought we should have kept up military operations before. Yes, more destructive in the short term, but in the long term, it could have been wrapped up faster and we could get back to a better economy. Just my take, not a military expert. All right, got what's trending coming up next on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Modestly speaking, in 1987, we knew Hammer Alley was better than Def Leppard, White Lion, Glass Tiger, John Cougar, and other artists named after Wildcats.
How did they go from top of the rock to rock bottom?
That band that won Battle of the Bands, Hammer Alley, is as current as a bowling alley. Have you been in one of those lately?
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.